Tom.
Hey, John. How you doing?
Pretty good. Do me a favor, Tom.
Yeah.
Call me back, but don't use the video because there's not enough signal to support the video.
No, not enough bandwidth, right?
Yeah. So,
all right, we can do that. All right, call you right back.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Hello, Tom.
Yeah.
There
we go.
Yeah. When you use a video call, it makes it harder for the sprint to.
Especially if you got low bandwidth. Where are you at? Out in the wilderness somewhere? Park?
No, I'm actually Minneapolis, St. Paul area. I'm in the metro. I'm not yet in St. Paul, but or Minneapolis, but almost there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that's good. Sound like you made good time and no weather issues on the way home, huh?
Actually, if you've been following my video, I needed 9 hours today to get to my delivery. I only had 7 hours and 50 minutes. And I'm supposed to deliver tomorrow at 7 a.m. But I'm going to, I forgot to mention this earlier, I'm going to meet up with a well driver in Black River Falls, Wisconsin, and we're gonna swap trailers.
Oh, okay.
Because I am completely out of hours by tomorrow. So.
Yeah. So he delivers your load for you?
Yep. Tom,
that worked out.
Could you tell people, you're on YouTube, by the way, I forgot to mention. Tom, could you tell people about the background about your dad and who he worked for and the aircraft he flown?
Well, I can do that. Yeah, my father was a pilot all his life. He flew for about 5 major companies. Owens Ford Glass, Autolite. Let's see who else. Autolite, Owens Ford Glass, and there was another company up in Toledo when we were living in Toledo. Anyway, my dad's background goes back to the military days when he was a flight instructor back in World War II in what they call at the time the Air Corps. U.S. Army Air Corps, and he taught cadets to fly combat for when we were fighting the Japanese in World War II. And then after that, my dad went into more or less an aviation career as flying as a commercial pilot. And like I said, he had about 4 or 5 major corporate jobs flying for different companies. And then after that, my dad, the last company he was with was down in Cincinnati, Ohio, a company called Mead Paper. And while we were living there, Mead, Dad had flew there, I think it was about 5 years with Mead, and then the corporate office decided to sell the airplane. So a gentleman by the name of Mr. Tony Holman, which I imagine a few of your listeners are maybe familiar with, he was the owner at the time of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, asked for a good friend of his that knew my dad, and he wanted to talk to my dad about possibly coming to Terre Haute to fly for him for the Speedway. And Dad was pretty excited about it because he liked auto racing and everything. So anyway, to make a long story short, the company Meat Paper sold the plane to Mr. Holman, the owner of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and we ended up in Terre Haute, Indiana, where I still live now. And Dad ended up flying for Mr. Holman for like 25 years here for the Speedway, and him personally.
Now, what kind of aircraft was that, Tom? A Beech something? Well,
originally, Dad, when I think it was Trailmobile bought the airplane. This was back in 1946. It was a Beechcraft D-18, which is a twin-engine airplane. And my father was on the assembly line with the airplane when they built it, and with like 5, 6 major companies. And he was with that same plane with 5 or 6 major companies till they retired the airplane in 1973. And they bought a Merlin III Fairchild, which is a turboprop airplane. And but my father was with the same airplane for many, many years, the only pilot to fly it. In fact, Flying Magazine had come into Terre Haute in 1974 and did a story on my dad and the airplane and everything, and it was really a nice story they did, and my dad was really elated by everything. And of course, that's a long time for any one pilot to be with one aircraft.
So basically, the aircraft, the same aircraft, only had one pilot, which is your dad, and the aircraft has been sold many different companies, and each time the aircraft has been sold, your dad always came with it, right?
Right. Yeah, he was part of the deal. Yeah. And it just happened to.
So that's what you call the lock, stock, and barrel, then.
Right. It'd be like you having your own rig, your own truck, and going with all those major companies and driving that one truck. It's just it doesn't happen too often that way.
Yeah, that's pretty unusual.
But in his case, it did, and he ended up in a job that he really enjoyed. Of course, like I said, my dad was really into auto racing, and of course, this just fit, the ideal job for him, because he went to all the races, met all the people, and had a lot of race car driver personal friends, and especially a lot of the Indy drivers he knew personally on a personal basis. So it was really a great job for him. You might say the ideal job that everybody wishes they could have someday.
Well, it's not a job, it's something you love doing, right?
That's right. Yeah. It's a job. Of course, with all jobs comes, and you got those little times when there aren't so good either. But that's all part of the deal,
Yeah. So where is? Tell people about you riding with that aircraft. I mean, how young were you the first time you stepped in?
Well, the first time I was actually in the airplane, I think I was like just after I was born, and my mom said that I sit in my dad's lap, and I was probably about 1-2 years old at the time, and Dad let me hold onto the yoke, and started to teach me to fly at that very early age. And I was pretty fortunate. I had the opportunity to learn to fly in an airplane, a multi-engine airplane, when I was quite young. I think by the time I was about 6 or 7, he had me sitting in the right seat and helping him fly the airplane. Of course, I think he kind of was trying to groom me to be a pilot, and I liked aviation and everything, but I guess I didn't see it as what I wanted to do for a living. But later on in life, I kind of helped him. I filled in with him and went on trips when he didn't have a co-pilot, and I really, I think today now, see, I'm 66 now, and I think back, I said, well, I missed a lot of good opportunities. I think we all do in life that, we wish he'd have done this and wish we'd have done that. But I think my interest in aviation is even more today than it was back then. But today, to get airplanes and fly them, it's expensive. It's not like just hopping in the family car and going somewhere. Gas is expensive, and having an airplane and ownership and insurance is very expensive. But I'm just glad I had the opportunity as a young guy, to experience what I did.
So where is the aircraft now, and who owns it?
Well, I've traced it back. The last owner that had it lived in, I think it was Chino, California. He was a collector of airplanes, kind of a wealthy guy.
Hello, Tom? Oh, I just lost Tom here going through the tunnel. Tom, hello?
I don't know where it went, but that's all I really know, John. I mean, that this gentleman there in Henderson has it. I did talk to the previous owner that had bought it, and in California, and I told him that, I had a few extra parts. If he was interested in them, I'd be happy to sell them to him or tell him, what I had or whatever. But like I said, he had a lot of airplanes, a lot of parts. He didn't need them, and that was the last time we spoke. So, yeah.
Yeah,
anyway.
one of those. I wish I could have done something when I was younger. Thing, right? Yep.
Right. Yeah. I think we all see that or experience it sooner or later in life. I mean, I'm not I took a different career route in my own life, and but aviation's always held kind of a place, since I was exposed to it at an early age. I mean, I've got an interest in it. I fly remote controlled planes. I've done that since back in the 60s. And just recently started flying RC helicopters. So, I don't think the interest ever leaves you, once you've been exposed to it.
Yeah.
And
it becomes a love affair, doesn't it?
all the new navigation that's on board aircrafts. And, like you in your truck, you got all this, you got GPS, and you got your people, what do you call it, people thing where you can go on there and check in with that.
Yeah, people.
Yeah, right. And it's just all technology. I mean, an airplane years ago, I mean, when I first was exposed to it, and I think, you had just the steam gauges, your typical round gauges. Now everything's flat panel screen display. And it's all high-tech stuff now in there. I mean, virtually an airplane will fly a whole flight and without even hands on the aircraft anymore. From takeoff to landing, it's that easy. It's just you're just sitting along for the ride anymore. So
I saw this on TV where the fighter pilots back in World War I, World War II were much better pilot than what they have today, because today's pilot rely so much on technology.
Right.
And, back then they used the guns and the 50 millimeter guns and that stuff, and 50 calibers, 80 calibers, but now they use mostly just use missiles and heat-seeking missiles, and
Oh yeah, it's just all part of technology, and pilots back in the early days, they were all taught to fly stick and rudder. I mean, nowadays you've got, like I said, these sophisticated aircrafts with control systems in them that will virtually fly themselves. It's nothing like what it used to be, And I think some of the better pilots came out of that area, World War II era. I'm not saying today's pilots aren't good and they're not a safe flying pilots, but it's just a different age. It's a different age we live in.
It is.
You see it, you see it with your job, and I think a lot of other jobs are the same way. So, yeah.
Yes, it is. So,
but,
Tom, where did you work for? Where, what kind of job did you finally ended up with?
I ended up in my own work. I ended up in the banking industry. I got into banking, and I learned that, I went in as just more or less a teller, and I got in, learned operations, and learned the different departments. And I spent probably over 30 years doing that, and I enjoyed it.
You ever get robbed?
Never got robbed. No.
Never got robbed.
No. No. There were some close ones, but never at our bank.
I don't know why, but I just had to ask that question.
Yeah, I was lucky.
So you pretty much retired from banking then?
Yeah, I retired in it was 1997. I retired in 1997.
At what age?
I was just 50. But after that, I worked for a friend of mine for a couple of years. He had a small business, and I helped him with that. But what was happening at the time, or why I retired when I did, and at the age is they had my bank that I worked for locally here was buying out other banks, and that was something that was going on back in that and still happening. But they were taking the people that had like 30 years there and trying to get them to take early retirement because they were trying to do away with benefits. You know the story.
Yeah.
And I ended up losing my job. They said I could move and go to the corporate office and work there, but it would mean a moving from where I live here in Indiana to a different part of Indiana, in the southern part. And I had a home here and everything, and I decided to stay here. So, and of course at the time my wife had a job, so we were pretty well. We didn't have to worry at the time.
Yeah.
So the way it worked out. But yeah.
Well, Tom, once again, thank you for talking with us, and it's always been.
Well, sure.
Thank you for the weather updates, and so. By the way, Happy New Year to you. Hello. Yeah, looks like we lost Tom. All right, we'll catch you guys later. Johnny B. Good here. Welcome to Minneapolis, St. Paul, everybody. Peace.